Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here on this early Saturday morning. Wasn't expecting so many people. My name is Jan Zeleny. I'm supervisor of the software management team at Red Hat, and this talk will be about new things in RPM world. So first, I will cover some basics, like what do we actually do. Well, I don't actually do anything, you know, but what my people do. Then the second part will be about what's going on, what we have implemented during the last year. And the third part is what we plan to deliver to you over the next year or so. So the first part, just before we start, I have just a presentation. I have a thread prepared, but I would really appreciate if this was like a discussion. So if you have a question, feel free, raise your hand, ask right away. I would really appreciate that if we actually discuss things. So who are we and what do we do? Sorry. So our job is to develop and maintain a few pieces of software that exist to help you manage your software on your computer. So the centerpiece is RPM, obviously. You all know RPM. Some of you might hate it. Some of you may love it. I won't ask. So that's our centerpiece. Then we have YAM and DNF. For those of you who were, well, maybe living in a cave or something and haven't heard about DNF, DNF is the next generation of YAM. It was forked about 2 years ago. So the code base was originally the same. It's not the same anymore. What we are trying to do with DNF is to do YAM right. If it's even possible, that is. Oops. So that's YAM and DNF, and then there is SCL utils, which I guess many of you don't know, but those of you who do know SCL utils, they probably hate it. I'm pretty sure about that. I see one guy working with SCL utils. Is there someone else? 2 guys. Okay.
But I know it.
Great. Thanks. And yeah, I will cover SCL. I believe I have SCL utils someplace down the road. Okay, and our job is also close cooperation with other stakeholders in the RPM world. That means release engineering, the FPC. We have one guy on the FPC. We also cooperate with infrastructure and also Richard Hughes from desktop. Yeah.
What is FPC?
FPC is Fedora Packaging Committee. So that's the bunch of bright people who come up with all these packaging guidelines that you all love so much.
Writers.
Yeah. Okay, so what happened over the last year? So let's start with RPM. So recently we have shipped RPM 4.12. It's in Fedora 21 for those of you who have it installed, and there are some pretty significant changes in the code base of RPM. So first of all, there is a new plugin interface. Let's call it semi-stable. Thank you. The interface is pretty much stable, but it's not like complete. There is still some development plan in that area, but we do have a few plugins that are already working and can demonstrate how to work with the plugin interface. So there is the systemd inhibit plugin. We have implemented that recently, and that's a plugin that basically use some sort of, I mean, I don't know the technology, but systemd inhibitors are supposed to basically save you from accidentally shutting down your computer in the middle of transaction. So that's a plugin. So there is the SE Linux plugin. I'm not sure if you know about it, but RPM has had support for some SE Linux magic. Like if you install a bunch of packages and some of those packages bring some parts of the SE Linux policy, RPM will reload that policy, stuff like that. And this code has been in RPM for quite some time. So what we did is that we moved it to its own plugin. So the code is a little bit better, and thanks to it being in a plugin, we can actually start working on that some more. I know I don't see Shubendu here, but he would appreciate it a lot. And there is the syslog plugin. That's just like an example how to work with plugins. I think it's not used, or at least not heavily. And the syslog plugin is actually there to help you find out where your installation or uninstallation or update where it fails. Okay, so there is the large file support and new payload API. I'm not sure if you know this, but historically RPM uses the CPIO format, which has some problems with files larger than 4 gigs. So Florian over there implemented a new code for the payload, and we can already work with files larger than 4 gigs. Is there a limitation, Florian? No?
Well, there are 64-bit numbers, so you will run out of namespace at some point.
Okay. So yeah, you can put as large files as you want in your RPM. So. But that's still Fedora 21. So if you build something like that on Fedora 20, for example, you will most likely fail.
Using CPIO.
If I understand it correctly, it uses CPIO for files that are smaller than 4 gigs. Is that right, Florian?
Yeah, we are not changing the format by default, but we're just using a new format for packages that actually have files which are larger than 4 gigs. So this has implications. So RPM to CPIO will still work for normal packages, but won't work for larger packet files, also with packages with larger files. And we implemented a new utility that can actually create towballs out of the packages.
Yeah, for those. So
it's actually doing something opposite to RPM to CPIO, which just discards the header and dumps the CPIO into a file.
I see us in a few decades already talking about how you lifted the new 16 exabyte limit.
I'm hoping to be retired by that.
We'll see about
that. But everyone who thinks things are getting tighter is welcome to ship patches.
Can you use libarchive to decompress the new style RPMs? Or do you have to use the RPM stuff? So basically, I've got this use case where I take the RPM and I decompress it to a tree using libarchive. Is that going to explode with any RPM and stuff that's bigger than 4 gig?
Yes. Okay. So, but we did not only add a new utility to convert it to towballs, we also added a new API
to explode a tree. To
basically loop over the payload and get the file contents.
So you're not running RPM to CPIO anymore.
You still can for those files who are not yet changed, but actually RPM to CPIO was never run in normal RPM operation.
Is there some?
It's just a helper utility.
Yeah.
So it's not actually used in normal operation. It's basically just a small utility that reads the size of the header, moves on, and writes everything else out to the disk. So it's a very simple and very stupid thing. And as it is very simple and very stupid, it only works for old kind of packages.
does the new format help with issues like replacing symlink with directory or the other way around?
No, because that's basically not a problem of the format, it's a problem of the file system. Because if the thing is, so everyone knows what we're talking about. There's an issue with RPM if you try to replace a symlink with a directory or vice versa. And the problem there is not so much that RPM doesn't know how to replace it. The question is, what do you do with all the files that are in the directory? So you would have to move that somewhere, and RPM would have to know what you actually want to do with them. There are cases where there is a solution and RPM is not smart enough to figure it out. As soon as there's at least one file RPM either does not know about or doesn't know what to do, you can't do that because the directory is gone and you have to place the file somewhere. So that will, it's something we have on our list, but it's pretty complicated to solve it, and you need quite elaborate algorithms to figure out which files need to move where. And the problem is, it's tricky because the way RPM works is,
But on updates it does installation first and removal after, right?
yeah, so you could do that, but of course you have to do all kind of tricks to remember where you move the files, because the directory is gone if you have updated the underlying package, but you later need to remove the files that are not at the location anymore where they're supposed to be, so it's a bit tricky. And I know it's a pain, and I know a lot of people are running into problems, but we've not been able to fix it, because it's a larger thing. You have to, and even if you are implementing quite smart algorithms, you still run into problems where you just have files left, you don't know where to put them.
So there was a question here.
How is the new unpacking utility called?
RPM to archive. So
It's
yeah.
basically a very small wrapper that just uses libarchive and loops over uses the new API to loop over the files and just dump them into the archive. It's pretty simple.
And what format does this output the RPM to archive?
It currently just supports tarbals, but it should be pretty easy to extend it to other formats.
Yep.
But tar is currently the most used format. And
Yep.
I have a couple of ideas how to make it more fancy, but I don't know if it's. We have currently other things. So if someone thinks they need some feature there, submit a patch. I'm really happy to. I'm happy to take patches. Or at least if you have a real use case where it needs to be more fancy. But I mean, seriously, what are you trying to do if you have a tarball? If you don't like it, extract it, repackage it, whatever, doesn't matter, I don't care.
So anyway, let's move on. So the next big thing we have done over the last year, that's weak dependencies, one of my favorites. That is one thing I've been missing in RPM for a long, long time, and now we have them, thanks to Florian again. He did a terrific job over the last year. So weak dependencies, what are they all about? So right now you know that in your spec files you can use these provides, requires, conflicts, obsoletes. We have implemented new tags. These are recommends, suggests, supplement, enhances. To give you closer explanation, recommends and suggests are weaker versions of requires. So if your package requires something, but it doesn't depend on it like heavily. It's like, I don't know, some module extension or something like that. You can use either recommends or suggests. The difference is that packages that are recommended will be by default marked to be installed, whereas those that are suggested will not be marked for installation. But you can choose when you install something, you can choose to exclude recommends as well, or to include suggests as well. So the difference is the level of importance, I would say. What is supplements? Yep.
Okay, I was going to say, how is this going to change dependency solving?
Well, in RPM it will not change anything because RPM itself actually doesn't care about these.
Indeed.
But in DNF And I will just talk about DNF because this is a thing that will never happen in YAM. We just don't plan to do it. If there is someone who is willing to take that chance, feel free, but we are not going to do that. And in DNF it's going to be pretty simple because the logic is already there. So there are some minor changes that are needed, but libsolve already knows everything about these.
So if libsolve, I've maintained det check, which is part of Taskatron, so that's what I'm asking. I'm wondering how it will affect me.
Depends what libsolver are you using right now.
Libsolve.
Libsolve.
So I should be good.
Then you're probably okay. I'm not sure if there is some magic in Hockey that Aleš needs to do.
I don't use Hawkeye, I go directly to libsolve.
Yeah, but yeah, I think you should be good because we are closely cooperating with Michael Schrader from SUSE, who is the author of libsolve, and he was actually one of the people where when we were discussing this model, he was there in the room, so we have all the changes that we required in libsolve. They are already there. So
from a checking perspective, the weak dependencies are optional. So things are supposed to work if you just ignore them.
Yep.
Okay. So it's okay if they break. They are intentionally made. So if there's any problem in a transaction, their value will just be dropped.
It still might not be a bad idea to issue a warning that.
Yep.
Yeah, you might want to check it anyway.
Yeah. This is just basically for users' convenience. Because, for example, one thing that I was missing when the first time I installed KDE and Kmail, I wasn't able to use GSS API because it was missing some Cyrus Sassel GSS API library, and I had no idea that I might need it installed. So when having this, now we have recommends and suggests, and the package can actually suggest to have some extra authentication packages, and it's really just about the user convenience. I will be able to look it up if there are some packages that are related to the one I'm installing, and I might install them as well. But as Florian mentioned, those packages should be, the main package should be functioning properly without those that are recommended and suggested.
Does create repo and the repository metadata support this already?
Yes.
Yeah. Both the old create repo and the new C version, they will support this. That's one of the key pieces actually.
Can you mark the recommends and suggest and stuff as you can mark the requires, like recommends pre-un or something like that?
I'm not sure, Florian. I don't think so.
I think they're currently they are not yet used for ordering, which is what SUSE has been doing the last years. In my opinion, they should be, and we will probably implement them.
Because if you take such a recommended package into the transaction, it should be more or less deterministic what happens. And if you can't mark it because maybe you have some part in your PostScript that would do something if the recommended package is installed, but wouldn't do it if it's not, and it fails silently, gracefully, then you want to have a deterministic order.
That's my reasoning also. So we will. It's not yet implemented to do ordering. It's probably not that hard, and we will probably do it in the next weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
What are the command line options to query those new dependencies?
You just use a lowercase letter at the beginning and use 2 dashes.
Okay.
Pretty much the same as for
Suggest supplement start.
And I query in language bindings. I'm using in Python RPM.
I hope we added that.
Yeah,
Yes, we should.
I think
I can't conjure the memory right off my mind, but I'm pretty sure we did that.
So now,
if not, open a button, please.
So then we have supplements and enhances. That's an interesting thing. Those are basically reverse versions of these two. So imagine a situation when you have I like to use Python. So you have a Python and you have some sort of Python module that you just implemented, and you think it enhances the Python itself. So you try to contact Python maintainer and ask him to add like a suggestion or recommendation to install that extra package that you have just implemented? And he says no. So what you can do, you can take your package and you can use one of these and it will do the same. One thing you should know, these versions are there only for the weak dependencies, not for requires, because that would be a recipe for disaster. Imagine a third-party repo, someone with some evil package would, I don't know, would reverse require, I don't know, let's say kernel or glibc, and you wouldn't be able to get rid of the package.
Well, you still can obsolete the kernel.
Yeah. Okay.
Why did you say
Yeah.
Well, the one reasoning to not do reverse requires is if you add a new package with a reverse requires, your installation gets broken because there's an unfulfilled requirement, and that's kind of weird. And so SUSE actually had a reverse requires and dropped that for this very reason. Because you want to verify your system as being sane, and you just don't want it getting broken because of some update.
So
and
what is the difference between these two?
Between suggests and enhances?
So, supplements and enhances?
Yes, supplements.
They are both
weak. So supplement is the counterpart for recommendation, and enhancement is the counterpart for suggestion.
So if I did what you just described, and I said supplements Python, and I get into the repo, the next time someone DNF installs Python, they will get me by default.
Yeah.
Just by install or by
Just by
update?
installing Python.
Yeah, update would work as well.
I guess there will be some packaging guidelines regarding that.
Yeah.
And we should say that the difference between the two is that recommends and supplements are enabled by default, and suggest and enhances are disabled by default.
Yeah,
that's the
exactly. And again, as Niels pointed out, we will just give Fedora the tool. What they decide to do with the tool, maybe there will be guideline not to use this at all, which would piss me off.
That's good because the package guidelines are pretty short right now, I think.
Yeah. Short and to the point.
I was more thinking about the supplements and enhances, that there will be some more rigorous guidelines,
probably.
opposed to recommends and suggests.
Probably, yeah.
So, did you already contact Fedora Packaging Committee about the guidelines?
not yet, as RPM is not officially released, it's still alpha. And so I hope as soon as Panu gets back from vacation, we will just do a final release.
But we have James on the
well,
PC,
it's
so
done now.
Okay.
And hand the job over.
Yeah, the supplements and enhances are mainly for third-party repositories, because surely we cannot say recommends MP3 plugin in Fedora packages, and so the MP3 plugin can actually say supplements, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
so that's
inside of Fedora we probably don't want to use the reverse.
Yeah, that's basically one of the rationales. The idea of RPM, one design goal was to allow third-party packaging. So a lot of the pain you're going to verify that packages really fit together on the binary level is done, so third parties can build. And if you install them, you are sure that it actually works with your library, and don't rely on them claiming that's the right version we need.
So what will happen when I say recommends on package which is not available? Or what should happen? DNF. RPM doesn't care about.
It will just ignore it.
Yeah.
So if anything goes wrong, they are just dropped.
And is it possible to configure the rules whether to install by default or not for their repository? So something like, if I have, I don't know, RPM Fusion, I don't want to do supplements thing by default.
It's not possible at this point, but it's an interesting idea. So if you file an RFE
in DNF.
Yes.
So in the secondary architectures presentation, Phil talked about having some sort of bootstrap.
Yeah,
so I'm wondering if this can be extended at some point to build requirements.
Yeah, I've actually asked the question. They're currently not using that. I thought about this a bit more. It first sounded very good idea, but my guess is they need to modify the build process anyway. for bootstrapping. Like, I mean, it's not enough to just say, we don't need those tools. You actually need to stop using them. So you need some if-def matching in the spec file anyway, so it's probably not worth the effort.
So, let's move on. One-pass build. An interesting thing when you're building your package. What will happen in current RPM implementations, it's not very effective. When you need to sign it, the package will be basically built twice, three times?
Written twice.
Written twice.
Actually written 3 times.
Yeah, because you need to write it, then you need to calculate the signature, and then you need to write the package again. So there was a change that there will be some space reserved in the header, which will be then used for the signature. So release engineering was really thrilled about this one because it really helps them a lot when they are building or signing packages. So partial thread safety, that's really partial. Don't expect RPM to be thread safe, but we are slowly working towards that goal.
Would you call it weak thread safety?
Yeah, it's a weak
Yeah.
Suggested.
Yeah, the suggested, yeah, maybe. And yeah,
they have been suggesting us to be thread safe. That's basically very hard.
Yeah. And the last point, I'm not sure if anyone here knows the RPM collections, what they were intended for. Basically, the idea was to have scriptlets that will be executed just once per collection. So you don't have to specify something in every other library. You will have to just specify it in the collection, and the scriptlet will be executed only once. So we removed that, and instead, I will cover that. I will cover that shortly. We have a technology coming that will cover the use cases.
Problem with it is a lot of use cases for the Linux guys were muddled in there. So they don't only need running scriptlets, they need to do some reordering to make sure all the policies are loaded in the right place before, and maybe all at once and not. And it turned out it is too much to do at once, and so it didn't get anywhere.
So I will just summarize this slide that we have done a lot of cleanup. I mean, really a lot. To give you some idea, you have some stats here. I extracted them just about a week ago, so that's pretty accurate. And we basically those ugliest part of RPM code that made your eyes bleed and everything, those are pretty much gone and are a bit more sane now, which I hope will help us add more features and fix more bugs in the future. So that is RPM. Let's see YUM just quickly. As I said, YUM is pretty much dead because there is no one else outside of the team working on YUM, and we have just one person in the team who is now working on YUM, and mostly in RHEL. So if you have bugs in Fedora for YUM,
keep them.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you file them, we will just close them as won't fix. So, sorry guys. But anyway, over the last year we have implemented just.
Okay.
Yep.
There are 7 years of him ahead of us.
Yeah.
That's about well.
Anyway, even though YUM is pretty much dead, we have at least implemented the YUMFS functionality. That was asked for by some folks in cloud and the Docker team. Yeah, Docker. Basically, there's some file-based operation like to filter out a bunch of stuff or to figure out what's the free space on your disk and stuff like that. So just to give you an idea that really not much happened in YUM, you can see here that not many lines of code were changed.
It's since where?
Since last year, last August.
Okay.
Okay, so DNF. First about the name. Not sure I should mention it. But well, let's just say DNF is the name, and it will remain to be the name of the project. It stands for Dendified Yum.
No, you can forever?
Huh?
Oh, nothing.
No, you can forever. No.
Lord did not finish.
Well, at this point, you can still say that, but you have like 6 months to say that, because then it will be finished. Well, depends on the perspective.
So DF?
Huh?
Did finish?
Ah, DF, okay.
DF is already
That might be confusing. You already have an utility called DF. So, the first you should know about DNF, big topic of the last few months, protected packages. A lot of flames going on about that on Fedora Devel list. Now we have this feature. Basically, well, even though we originally didn't plan to have it, apparently people don't want to have guns that allow to shoot themselves in their feet. So we have now the protected packages technology, and you can specify what packages cannot be removed from the system. And currently running kernel is one of them to make you okay. Plugin support. That's an important thing, especially when you think about Yum in the past. Yum had sort of API. I don't want to call it API because it was really, really badly documented, and people tend to not use it. When they were working with Yum, they tend to work with, well, any internal variable that was available. Obviously, DNF is written in Python, so you can still do that, but it's really highly discouraged. And the official API is well documented and well defined. You will be able to find the documentation on DNF pages. So we now want everyone to use just this API, and that's the only thing that we will guarantee. If you will use internals, we don't care if your stuff breaks.
You should rename the internal stuff on
Yeah.
a monthly basis.
And we already have a bunch of plugins in DNF. So there's the repo query plugin, which is interesting, which might be interesting for some of you, because repo query will no longer be a standalone utility. It will be instead of doing repo query XYZ, you will do DNF repo query XYZ.
Is there kind of an ETA? Because I've used DNF repo query, and it's still missing some functionality that the repo query standalone tool had. Like querying specific things, I think changelog or something like that.
Feel free to file RFEs, because basically Aleš tracks everything in the Bugzilla, so if it doesn't exist in the Bugzilla.
One question, are you planning to provide, I don't know, maybe a symlink called repo query?
We will probably do some aliases or something like that.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so there is the download plugin. You know that functionality from Yum. Just download the package, will not install it.
Will there be kind of the download only functionality of Yum, where you, in the last version of Yum you could choose yes, no, and D just to download the packages into the cache, so you can run the action later. Will there be something like that, or should I just file an RFC?
Please don't add a third option to yes/no question. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about the interface, just the functionality. At some point, there was the download only option, and I think it's not in DNF. I haven't found anything.
I think it's not there because the download plugin works somewhat differently. And the download only is really nice when you want to do full Fedora upgrades without going through fade up, because then you can run the download only in GUI mode and then switch to text mode only to do the upgrade. Because it's not recommended to do it in GUI mode, because sometimes X crashes and then the transaction goes down if you did it in GUI mode. But you don't want to drop to the text mode already when you're downloading all the stuff.
Again, file an RFE.
Okay.
I'm not sure it will work the same as it works in Yum though, because as someone mentioned here, to have actually a third option to a yes/no question.
No,
that's
the interface I wasn't talking about that. Just the functionality, like the -- download only option to forward. I mean that's also quite practical. If you can run it nightly and then have all the updates already in the cache, and then if you're ready during the day, you can run the update or something like that.
Yeah. As I said, file an RFP. Feel free. We appreciate RFPs.
When you are talking about the API, you mean the command line API, right? Because I was trying to use DNF plugins like from another Python code, but it wasn't so easy.
Yeah, so there are actually there are actually two APIs. One is the plugin API, and that is intended just when you write a plugin. But if you want to build some extra functionality on top of DNF, so that would be the high-level API. We have some of that, but it's not the main focus right now.
Yeah, the thing I was trying to do was I needed to run repo query from Python code, but I had to use exec because it's not written like Python lit. So is that intended or just something that can be fixed?
That's a good question. I don't know, to be honest.
Okay.
Because the thing is that the repo query is a plugin, so you would actually need to have some API for the plugins themselves, and I guess it will be up to each plugin to provide something like that, but I guess it will not be a part of DNF in general.
Does your team maintain FedUp as well, or is it separate?
We don't, and we don't want to.
Do you know, are there plans to port it to DNF or Hockey or something?
Yeah, we will need.
Shouldn't be a big change.
Yeah, shouldn't be a big change. Well, it depends, because FedUp and Rollup doesn't actually use YAM per se. They actually use only the YAM to do the depth solving piece, and then they use RPM directly to install the packages, which is ugly as hell in my opinion, but well, what are you gonna do? Yes?
Can we write Python 3 plugins yet?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
It doesn't work though. They don't get run.
Yeah, the thing with Python API, so yeah, as I mentioned right here, we should be supporting Python 3, but since it's still not default in Fedora, there might be some problems here and there. So.
It seems like you can build the plugin, but nothing ever happens.
You can run DNF3.
DNF3?
Yeah. We actually still have, like two code bases in DNF. So we have this for Python 2, and we have this for Python 3. Yeah. So
what's blocking the Python 3 integration?
I guess nothing. We're just waiting for Fedora 22, I guess.
And of course the plugins need to use the same Python version as DNF, so if you run the Python 2 DNF you need the plugins in Python 2, and if you run Python 3 DNF you need the plugins in Python 3.
Yeah, actually there is DNF core plugins and DNF core plugins 3 or like it's also.
Yeah, but it's still about writing the code twice essentially. Yeah. So.
Well, I guess if the plugins are not too complicated, you can write it in code that runs on 2 and 3, and you just have to copy to the right place. Yeah, that's actually what happened in DNF.
So that's Python 3. Problem in EPOL. It was discussed a couple times already on this very conference. So I will just sum it up that we don't have Python. Well, Python 3 is not planned in EPOL 7. Which might be a bit problematic because it means we will still have to maintain two code bases, one for EPOL and one for Fedora. We're not happy about it, and we are still trying to negotiate with the Python team to actually include Python 3 in EPOL 7. So Anaconda integration, Aleš was working with you, I guess, on that.
More people.
Yeah. So right now you can use DNF in Anaconda to install your system, should be working properly. There might be some minor things that are still required, but in general it will work. So, and we actually plan to have a test day sometime in December, I guess. That will focus on this as well, so you will be able to install your system using DNF instead of YAM. Nightly builds, yeah, I wanted to mention that. So we obviously do regular releases in Fedora, but if you want cutting edge, you can use. We have a Jenkins instance running somewhere in Fedora Cloud, so you will be able to Google it, and you can pick our nightly builds to have the latest and greatest code. This is just to give you an idea how many things were implemented over the last year. We are still working on a feature parity with Jan, so if you ask us for new stuff, like completely new stuff, it will probably be deprioritized because we still want to have feature completeness in Fedora 22. So this is what we're working on. And all of these are already in the code base and you can use them.
So the proxy support is not basic, it's full proxy support. Right?
Yeah, okay. Now it's full proxy support.
Since last week.
Yeah. Yeah. I was writing these slides like 2 weeks ago.
They are already outdated.
Okay, so what do we plan to deliver over the next year? So we are almost out of time, so I will just go quickly through this. So rich dependencies, that's the second part of weak dependencies. I'm pretty sure that most of the work is done already, right, Florian?
Yeah. The OR depends seriously awesome.
Yeah. So you will be able to use basically Boolean algebra in your requires, provides, requires, recommends, and suggests. Conflicts. Okay. And this is actually the point where Jan will break. We are pretty sure about that. File triggers. Oh yeah, that's the technology I was talking about. This is what is intended to replace collections. And the idea of file triggers is to have a script in your spec file. You will specify like a pattern or prefix that will be detected by RPM, and if you install files in that prefix, it will run the script. The intended use case is to simplify spec files by, for example, if you have a library in your package, you need to run ldconfig, and you need to specify that in every spec file that you have. The idea of this is to have a file trigger in glibc that will detect files in /user/lib and /lib and /lib64, something like that, and it will execute the ldconfig. So you will not have to include it in your scriptlet in your spec file. It will just be included once in glibc. Yes.
Just to comment that the file triggers is freaking awesome because it means like most of our spec files just half in size.
Yep.
And all the random crazy bash stuff that's done, all the redirections and stuff.
And all the copy-based madness is gone.
Yeah,
exactly.
That was the idea.
We need to get that into the packaging guidelines like ASAP.
Yep.
The thing is, there is some code that's still being written.
Yeah.
Come on, Florian. So I actually offloaded this to someone else.
So also, if we have a DNF transaction, this means that the bash script will be run just once for this set of packages like ldconfig.
There are basically two versions of these triggers. There are one that are per package, run during like the normal post and pre and post scripts. And they are basically per transaction triggers that are run at the end of the transaction.
You will actually need both, because if you have a new library coming to your system, you will, in some cases, you will need to run the ldconfig ASAP so the other packages can use it in their scriptlets. So we will have to implement both versions.
But for stuff like the no micron cache.
Yep.
So they're basically very, very close to normal RPM triggers.
This is seriously awesome, yeah.
Yeah, we have actually promised to deliver this to Colin Walters and the Atomic team, because they will be the ones who will be pushing this heavily. They are the ones who want all post scriptlets gone, and this will do a huge part of the job. So yeah, SCL utils, I will skip that because I probably won't have much time to tell you about SCL utils. Logging mechanisms for RPM scriptlets. So there are some plans there. Obviously, we will not be able to deliver full logging for RPM scriptlets, but at least to a certain degree, we will be able to do that. New software database. Well, that has been a plan since like forever. Basically, to drop the PDB and use something else. There is some code currently. And yeah, and we will probably look into it some more. So delta metadata, yeah, I promised that last year already we had a bunch of testing implementations. There is still one implementation that we are considering, but it's been on hold for some time. But we will definitely revisit that because people keep asking about delta metadata, because it's quite painful to download like a 40 megs metadata every time you need to do updates. So we will definitely look into that.
Is the new implementation this one with the graph and like rebuilding your like database based on some fragment? Heard about?
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm not sure though, because this implementation that is currently in existence, that doesn't come from our team. That comes from release engineering.
Yeah, so it is.
Yeah. And last, well, that will be the most important thing that we will work on over the next year. The YAM to DNF transition, we want it to go smoothly as humanly possible. There will be some minor problems, so please bear with us. But we will do our best to keep this painless. Okay, any questions? Yes.
Are there any plans to remove the madness where if you use YAM or DNF, it does change root underneath the code? Yeah. So in Anaconda, we are installing to a completely different system, and it does change root. So GTK searches for icons in the change rooted system if it matches the same time. I've asked Aleš to do that, and he was very optimistic in the beginning, but I don't think
it's tricky. I guess he was optimistic when he had not yet looked into the code, which is what's always happening. You're optimistic before you look into the code.
I mean, the scriptlets definitely do need to run on the change root, the post scriptlets and such, because they refer to the absolute paths of the files, and if the file, and you don't want the scriptlets to run on the Anaconda file system, you want it to run on the target file system.
Yeah. So it's not that simple. For installers, for one of the many installers we have, this is probably not to be avoided, because you need to, there are stuff that needs to be done in the change room. And as far as I see, one of the main culprits here is probably Berkeley DB.
Well, what we do in Anaconda is that we fork another process to run the YAM transaction, and then we have some inter-process communication.
Yeah, that's actually the way
so that could be implemented on the level of DNF or even RPM. I don't know.
Yeah, we thought about it, but why would we have to want to have the pain if you have it?
We don't plan it at the moment, but we might look into it at some point in the future. Okay. Yes.
What will happen with the remaining executables in YAM utils? I'm mainly interested in repo sync and maybe package cleanup. Should I file RFE for the plugin score or what?
I don't think you need to do that at this moment, because we have a plan to port everything that is in YAM utils, but it will take some time. So if you can help us there, feel free. We will really appreciate it. Okay. But yeah, it's on the roadmap. That's part of the YAM to DNF transition, because release engineering is also depending on these tools. So,
okay. Yep. Are there any plans for the YAMConf directory? Will it still be the YAMConfD, or will it change to DNFConfD, or something like that?
No idea, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, is the plan still that DNF will eventually be renamed to YAM, or did this change?
It will not be renamed. The name will stay for various reasons. We have actually talked about this in the team for I don't know how many times, and it would be really problematic to rename it.
Yeah, I also think that it would confuse users more than it would help them.
Yep, exactly. That's one of the reasons.
I mean, at most, if we really remove YAM entirely, then we could put some kind of symlink or alias, but other than that...
Yeah, that's basically the idea how to do the transition. So you will have like DNF package, you will have YAM package, and then there will be another package like DNF-transition or something like that. So you will be able to have YAM and DNF parallel to each other, but once you install the transition package, it will basically obsolete YAM and it will provide the symlink. So that's the plan anyway.
Here.
Yep.
So I arrived late, sorry, but so you said something about like recommend suggest, that's planned?
That's already there.
It's already there?
Yeah,
oh,
in Fedora 21.
That will solve like half of my packaging problems. So.
Yeah, not just yours.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, any more questions? Yes.
Is there any, like, what's the reason of supporting two separate code bases for Python 2 and Python 3 instead of like introducing some compatibility layer?
Like Python 6.
Yeah, Python 6. Or your own.
Yeah.
Well, the code base, I don't want to say it's two different, completely different code bases. It's just one code, it just has some parts for Python 3, some parts for Python 2. The reason is we wanted to switch to Python 3 completely. And the reason why we can do that is Apple, basically.
Right.
But we will push for that, and we, as I said, we really want to get rid of the Python 2 part. We have just the Python 3 code base, and hopefully we will succeed. But
we should start porting Anaconda to Python 3 then.
You really should do that. Your lucky Slavic is not here.
We are already doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
Yep. To have DNF for Apple.
We would love to see it in Apple, but it's still. I mean, the first step is to get it to Fedora as default, and then we will be talking about Apple. But it's definitely our intentions because we also want RHEL and CentOS and Scientific Linux folks to start trying DNF. So, yes.
Well, if you're talking about all the newfangled stuff like recommends and things, you need to, basically you're depending on the DNF, not YAM, so RHEL proper would have to use DNF at that point, because then you have all these tools that would use YAM and they would break if you have encounter packages that use this stuff.
It would not actually break, it would just not work.
Yeah, it would just not
well,
work.
that's break for me.
Oh, I see.
No, it would just install less packages.
Yeah.
So it's not.
It would be impossible to install Fedora packages on RHEL, which is not a good idea anyway.
Yeah, but if you're talking about Apple packages and if you want, I mean, there has to be a reason why we want to have DNF in Apple. I mean, if we're not using any of the new features, why use DNF?
Because it's better than YAM?
Also, Matt mentioned the other day that Apple gets the most downloads out of anything on the Mirror server, so you would actually get many more users, potentially.
Yep.
Yeah, and DNF is faster because of the C part.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes.
So it'd be awesome to have all of this stuff on RHEL 7.
I'm sorry, what?
It'd be awesome to have all of this stuff like Hawkey, the grepper, the DNF on RHEL 7. How likely is that?
Yeah, that's basically what I was talking about. You know, because Hawkey and LibRepo and libsolve, they will be in RHEL 7 proper because Atomic needs them. But as for DNF, that's a different story. We will probably.
I
mean, it would be nice to have it in RHEL 7 as well, but we'll probably target Apple. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, okay, I'm out of time. So if you have any more questions, just grab me. I will be here till like noon. And thank you guys for attending.